Okay, let's talk about ions and what one is. I'm interested in talking about what makes something an ion. Before I write down a definition, let's talk about what we've got over here on the right. I've got a periodic table box from helium, and we know that it's got 2 protons, and it's got a mass of 4 units. And let's see, I put this drawing out here. So here's one of our protons, and there's the other proton. And these two things are neutrons. How did I get that? I took the atomic mass number, 4 minus 2, and that gave me 2 neutrons. You've already passed that quiz if you're working on this quiz. But anyway, we've also got 2 electrons going around the outside. So we've got 2 of these, and whoops, and 2 of these. So 2 protons, 2 neutrons, 2 electrons. Okay. For ions, what we really care about are these and these. We're not really worried about the electron or the neutrons, so I'm just going to get rid of them. Okay. So protons and electrons. If the numbers match, if the protons equals the electrons, then we have no ion. That's not an ion. The reason why is because the plus and the minus equal each other. It's electrically neutral. Okay, if you touch this atom, you wouldn't get a poke, a shock. Now, let's do something to this atom. Let's say we're going to throw in another electron whizzing around the outside with these other 2. Okay, so now our electron number has changed from 2 to 3. So now our electrons outnumber our protons. So since electrons are negative and protons are positive, we have a negative ion. So if your electrons outnumber your protons, you've got a negative ion. How would I draw the symbol for this? I would write He. It's got 2 protons. It's got a mass of 4. And how much do the electrons outnumber the protons? Well, we've got 2 of these, and we've got 3 of those. So if we've got 2 pluses and 3 minuses, that adds up to make -1. So this is how you'd write the symbol for a -1 helium ion. Okay, I've cleaned things up a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change. I'm going to take this electron, and I'm going to get rid of it, and I'm going to take this electron, and I'm going to get rid of it. So now my electron number is 1. So now my protons outnumber my electrons. I've got 2 of the protons, and I've got 1 of the electrons. So I've got 2 pluses, and I've got 1 minus. So that means this minus and this plus could cancel each other out, so I'm left with 1 more plus than minus. So that's going to be He, 2 and 4, and now this is going to be a +1 ion. So that's how you would write the symbol for a +1 ion. So how do you make an ion? I think you probably already know the answer. To make an ion, you either add or remove electrons. And instead of writing the word electron, I'm just going to write E-. So to make an ion, you just add or remove electrons. How do you do that? Well, if you want to remove electrons, you can add energy, something like maybe like heat or electricity. If you add heat or electricity, you can make electrons just fly off of atoms, and you make positive ions. How do you make a negative ion? Well, you add extra electrons, and only a certain number of atoms are interested in accepting extra electrons, and that's where I'm going to go next. Because not all atoms make the same kinds of ions. Some atoms make positive ones, some of them make negative ones. Some of them can actually do both. So for this class, I made this picture. I took a periodic table and I chopped parts of it off, and this is all that I'm really interested in. So let's see here. I'm also going to get rid of this right here because we don't really need it for this class. Okay, so let's talk about this first column right here. Lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and francium. These guys. These guys all want to lose 1 electron. What does that mean? When they lose 1 negative, that means this whole column likes to become +1 ions. So that first column likes to become a +1 ion. And then the next column over, beryllium down through radium, these guys all want to lose 2 electrons. So these guys all would like to become +2 ions. Over here on the table, I chopped off the far right column with helium in these guys. The reason that I chopped this column off is because that far right column doesn't like to become ions. Chemically anyway. They will if you heat them up or add electricity, but chemically they don't do much, so we pretty much ignore that column. Alright, now this column right here with fluorine at the top, these guys, they have room for an extra electron, so they would like to gain 1 electron. So if you take a neutral fluorine atom and add an extra electron to it, you get a -1 ion. So this whole column likes to become a -1 ion. This column right here, oxygen and sulfur, these guys like to become -2 ions. Nitrogen and phosphorus, they like to become -3 ions. And then carrying on the pattern from over here on the left side, we got these guys all becoming +1, these guys becoming +2, and then these guys right here like to become +3 ions. Okay, so that is how different elements make ions differently. Some of them make positives, some of them make negatives.